I've been talking to this girl for about 6 months, and for the longest time, I kept telling myself we had something. Not officially, not boyfriend and girlfriend, not even really dating if I'm being honest, but definitely something. At least that's what I thought. Her name was Marissa, and I met her through a mutual friend at a birthday thing back in the summer. Nothing crazy. We weren't introduced like it was some movie moment or anything. We just ended up next to each other while a bunch of people were standing around a grill pretending they knew how to cook. She made some joke about the burgers looking like hockey pucks. I laughed harder than it deserved, and we started talking. And it was easy. That was the part that hooked me. She was funny without trying too hard, pretty without making it her whole personality, and she had that kind of energy where she made you feel like she was actually listening when you talked, which, if you've dated at all recently, you know is weirdly rare. Most conversations now feel like two people waiting for their turn to speak or checking if someone better texted them back. But with her, it felt smooth, natural, like we'd known each other longer than we had. At the end of the night, I asked for her number, and she gave it to me without hesitation. I remember leaving that party feeling stupidly optimistic, the kind of optimism that makes you check your phone every 15 minutes even though you were the one who said you'd text later. So I texted her the next day. She replied, and just like that, it started. At first, I didn't notice the pattern. That's the crazy part. When you like somebody, your brain will do Olympic-level mental gymnastics to protect the version of them you want to believe in. I was always the one texting first, but in the beginning that didn't seem like a big deal. I figured maybe I was just more outgoing. Maybe she was shy. Maybe she liked when the guy took initiative. There are 100 little excuses you can make when someone gives you just enough to keep going. And Marissa always gave me just enough. If I texted her, she'd respond, usually pretty fast, too. We'd go back and forth for hours sometimes. She'd send voice notes. She'd laugh at my jokes. She'd ask follow-up questions. She'd send me random pictures of her coffee or her dog or the view from wherever she was. We'd stay up late talking about dumb stuff, serious stuff, childhood stuff, family drama, all of it. That's what made it confusing, because if somebody can talk to you that much, that easily, that consistently, you assume they want to, right? That's what I thought anyway. But over time, little things started standing out, like how every conversation began with me, every single one. Good morning text, me. How was your day? Me. Random meme, me. Checking in after her work shift, me. Asking if she got home safe, me. Starting a conversation because I hadn't heard from her all day, also me. And again, she'd respond. She wasn't cold, she wasn't rude, she wasn't giving me one-word answers like she hated me. That would have actually been easier. If she had just acted uninterested, I probably would have moved on way sooner. But no, she was warm, engaging, present. Just never first. At some point around month 3, I noticed it clearly, not vaguely, clearly. I remember staring at our message thread and realizing it looked like I was pulling a rope hand over hand, while she just stood there, letting herself be moved. That feeling sat weird with me. Still, I ignored it, because by then, I was invested. We'd hung out a few times too, not a ton because every time I tried to make concrete plans, there was always something. She was busy with work, she had family stuff, she wasn't feeling great. She already promised her friend she'd go out. Sometimes she'd suggest another time, and sometimes she wouldn't. But she'd always sound sincere enough that I told myself it was fine. And when we did hang out, it was great. That's another trap right there. You can survive on a lot of inconsistency if the good moments hit hard enough. We'd get coffee and end up talking for 3 hours. We'd sit in my car outside her apartment and somehow lose track of time. Once we walked around downtown after dinner and she slipped her arm through mine for a few seconds. And I swear I replayed that stupid moment in my head for like a week. That's how starving works emotionally. Somebody gives you crumbs and suddenly you're calling it a meal. Around month 4, one of my friends called it out. We were at a bar, not even doing anything deep, just shooting pool badly and talking trash, and I mentioned Marissa. I don't even remember what I said. Probably something hopeful and embarrassing. My friend Tyler goes, "Does she ever text you first?" And I said, "Not really, but—" And he literally cut me off. "Nah, there is no but. Does she or doesn't she?" I laughed it off at the time because nobody likes when a friend says the exact thing you've been trying not to think about. But it stuck. I started paying attention more. If I didn't text her in the morning, nothing. If I didn't send something after work, nothing. If I didn't ask how her weekend was, nothing. And the thing is, it wasn't like she was bad at texting in general. She was on her phone plenty. Sometimes she'd mention group chats blowing up. Sometimes she'd send me screenshots from conversations with friends. She clearly knew how to use a phone when she wanted to, just apparently not to reach out to me first. That realization kind of sat in my chest like a rock. It made me start questioning everything. Was she actually into me or just into being liked? Was I someone she wanted or just someone she accepted attention from because it was nice to have around? Was I building meaning out of effort she was never making? And maybe the worst part was that I felt stupid for even caring that much, because technically nothing had happened. We weren't official. There was no breakup to even break up from. No promises, no labels, just 6 months of near daily talking that somehow still left me unsure where I stood. That kind of situation messes with your head more than a clean rejection ever could. At least with rejection, you know. This was like death by confusion. I started pulling back a little, not in some dramatic, manipulative way. I just wanted to see if she'd notice. She didn't. Or if she did, she didn't do anything about it. Then one night, after carrying the conversation like usual, I just hit this wall. She had replied to something I sent with a laughing emoji and "You're ridiculous." And normally, I would have turned that into another 2 hours of texting. But instead, I just stared at the screen and thought, what am I actually doing? I'm serious here. What was I doing? Every interaction depended on me starting it, steering it, reviving it, maintaining it. I was basically in a relationship with my own hope. So I decided to run the simplest test possible. I would stop texting first. That's it. No games, no weird social media posting, no fake "let me see if she cares" speech to my friends. I just wasn't going to initiate the next conversation. If she reached out, great, that would tell me something. If she didn't, well, that would tell me something too. At the time, I really thought it would last maybe a day. 2 days max. I honestly believed that somewhere in there she'd send a "Hey stranger" or "How's your week going?" or some random meme or literally anything. Because 6 months is a long time. If you talk to somebody for 6 months, they notice when you disappear. At least I thought they did. Day 1, nothing. I wasn't worried yet. I actually felt kind of calm, a little proud of myself even. Like, okay, good, let's break this pattern. Day 2, still nothing. I checked my phone more than I want to admit. Day 3, nothing. That's when the doubt started creeping in. Maybe she was busy. Maybe she thought I was busy. Maybe she was waiting for me because I always text first and she assumed I would. By day 5, I was having arguments with myself in the shower. One side of my brain was going, "Dude, this is your answer. Accept it." The other side was like, "No, maybe she's just giving you space. Maybe she doesn't want to be clingy. Maybe something happened." I almost texted her on day 6. I had the message typed out too. Something casual. "Hey, hope your week's going well." But I deleted it, because I knew if I sent that, I was resetting the clock. I'd just be choosing comfort over clarity again. A full week passed. Nothing. No text, no meme, no "hey," not even a lazy reaction to one of my stories. That's when it stopped being confusing and started becoming painful. Because when someone can go 7 full days without speaking to you after talking for 6 months, you have to accept an ugly truth. The connection mattered more to you than it did to them. And that hurts. Not just because you miss them, but because it forces you to reevaluate all the moments you thought meant something. The late-night talks, the inside jokes, the "I'm glad we met" stuff, the way she smiled when we were together, the comfortable silences. All of it starts feeling suspect. You start wondering if you imagined the weight of it, if you got attached to a version of the story that only existed in your head. By day 10, I wasn't even checking my phone as much anymore. Not because I had healed or moved on or reached some enlightened state, more because I was tired. Tired of hoping, tired of analyzing, tired of feeling stupid every time my screen lit up and it was just some spam email or a sports alert. And underneath that tiredness, there was something else. Embarrassment. Not because I liked her. I don't think liking somebody is embarrassing. What embarrassed me was how long I had accepted so little and kept dressing it up like maybe it was enough. I had been calling bare minimum effort mixed signals because that sounded more romantic than the truth. The truth was simpler. If someone wants to talk to you, they will. Not every second, not in some obsessive way. People get busy. Life happens, sure. But for 2 straight weeks? Come on, nobody is that busy. If they can go 14 days without starting a conversation with you, they are not fighting to keep you in their life. They're just comfortable letting you do all the work until you stop. And apparently, when you stop, so do they. 2 weeks. That's where it sits now. 2 full weeks since I sent the last first text. And no, she still hasn't messaged. What's weird is that I almost feel calmer now than I did during the first few days. Not better, just clearer. It's like I spent 6 months staring at a foggy window, trying to convince myself I could make out a future on the other side, and then one simple decision wiped the glass clean. I didn't lose something real. I lost access to an illusion I was maintaining. That sounds harsh, but it's honestly the only thing that makes sense anymore. Because if she cared, I would know. That's the part I wish more people understood when they get stuck in these almost relationships, these low-effort situationships, these one-sided dynamics where one person keeps saying, "But when we talk, it feels so good." Yeah, I know. That's what keeps you there. The quality of the moments makes you overlook the absence of intention. You start grading them on chemistry instead of consistency. And chemistry is fun. Chemistry is exciting. Chemistry can absolutely light your brain up. But consistency tells the truth. Consistency is what reveals whether somebody just enjoys your attention or actually values your presence. Looking back now, I don't even think Marissa was some villain. That's important. I don't think she sat there rubbing her hands together plotting how to keep me around with minimal effort. I think she liked me, to a point. I think she enjoyed talking to me. I think she appreciated the attention, the comfort, the reliability of knowing I'd probably pop up. But appreciating someone isn't the same as choosing them. Enjoying conversation isn't the same as investing in a connection. And just because somebody likes having you around doesn't mean they care when you're gone. That lesson sucks, but it's useful. Because now I know what I'll never ignore again. If I'm always the one reaching out, that's not a small detail. That is the detail. If I'm constantly wondering where I stand, that is my answer. If I have to disappear just to see whether someone notices, the relationship is already in bad shape. I think a younger version of me would have texted her by now. Probably something overly polite, maybe even apologetic for pulling back, which is insane considering I was the one carrying everything. But I'm not doing that. Not because I'm angry, not because I'm trying to teach her a lesson, not because I'm waiting for some dramatic moment where she realizes what she lost. I'm not texting because I finally understand that chasing closure from someone who couldn't even offer initiative is just another way of abandoning myself. And honestly, that's what this whole thing was really about. Not her. Me. my willingness to settle for almost, my tendency to confuse access with affection, my habit of overvaluing people who underinvest. It took 2 silent weeks for that lesson to really land, but it landed. So yeah, I've been talking to this girl for the past 6 months, or I guess I was. Then I stopped sending the first text. That was 2 weeks ago. She hasn't messaged. And as much as that stings, I'd rather sit with the truth now than keep feeding myself false hope for another 6 months. Because the right person might be busy sometimes. The right person might not text perfectly. The right person might not always say the exact right thing. But they will not leave you wondering whether you matter